put that on. Right. So as I was saying, the dream book, actually, this is the last iteration of the Dream Live event, and we'll be looking at M for manifestation. The reason why that is the case is because it's now time to start working on the next book, which has a working title of Space for Your Brilliance. And obviously, Dream being the name of the book, it kind of didn't work that we'll still be doing that under Dream. So we've decided to rebrand as Poetricity, which is poems to create transformation. So we will still have an event next month, but we will start looking forward, and actually anybody who attends will be part of inputting into the next book. The first book, this one, was created and then delivered. This one will be a co-created book, the next one. And we'll be looking at the different pieces that I'm contemplating putting in the book. And then people have an opportunity to give some input. We'll play around with some questions, because the way the book is set out for those who have a copy of the book is that you have a section heading, you have some information there to set the context, and then we have poems, and then each poem has questions for reflection, and then there's space for people to reflect. So without much ado, let us kick off, and I'll start by reading. For those of you who have your book to hand, I'm on page 154, and this is the section heading for manifestation, experiencing your dream life unfolding. The quote there is, "It's only after you found what you want inside of you that you can find it outside of you." So far, it appears our dream life is something we make happen, and it relies on external events for it to materialize. From this paradigm, it can often feel like it's a lot of hard work to get there. When you visualize your dream life, you taste a bit of the experience you're looking to enjoy. That experience has always been there for you to have, but your stories and beliefs about what needs to happen on the outside first form a barrier to living it now. If you are willing to consider that the universe is calling you into the experience of a rich, fulfilling life, where you embrace all that it brings your way, you get to participate in the unfolding of the universe in service of all and embrace the privilege of it. Enjoy the experience of life that is laid out in front of you and celebrate the small miracles all around you. Relax into doing what comes to you in the moment without attachment to the outcome. This will lead to you experiencing your most productive state. You're already enough as you are. Do whatever you choose to do because you know that you are enough, not to convince you or anyone else of it. Allow inspiration and love to drive you. Your dream life is unfolding before you with everything you do. Every action is making a difference in the world. Does anything pop out as I read that? Any reflection, anything that resonates with you particularly?
Oh, someone else is joining.
Yeah, I've just let them in. Does anything resonate before we go into any of the poetry there? Don't be shy, people.
Well, I think everything resonates, at least to me.
Okay.
You know, I write a lot about self-transformation, and it all really comes down to inspiration and love. You know, so every time I start writing, it's like the underlying theme is at the end about love and making sure that people are inspired. So even if I would like to tell, and if I tell stories that are hard to understand, or they're difficult, or they're challenging, I always want to make sure that the positive comes out of it, you know, so that people are not dragged down, but uplifted. And, you know, the universe works in miraculous ways. we don't really have the power to choose, right? So it comes from the external events, and then we transform internally. So, yeah, absolutely underlining.
Thank you very much for that, Maria. Anyone else on that before we move ahead?
Yeah, what came across for me is that in dream state. Anything that comes into our dream state is something that we've either seen, we've either absorbed, we've analyzed, and the dream is a combination of all of those things. And what make up it is how we see ourselves. If we are in a negative state, then we'll see to something that is negative. If we are in a positive state, then we'll see to something positive, because we are all energies. So to analyze how a dream state could be, or what we're trying to visualize, or what we're trying to bring into our tomorrows. And I think with poetry flow, it's always something that is instilled with us already, and it's how we deliver something out of us. As you are saying, Frank, if we are delivering something out of love, no matter what complexities we have in our brain that comes through the day, because we don't always know what matter is absorbed into us from the surroundings, or where they were placed in our memory bank, because things are always being unscrambled in the memory library and coming to the forefront when it is necessary to come to the forefront to uncover something about the feelings that we are going through. It's quite a complex thing. So I do believe that this manifestation and this transition that we have through dream state into reality is a necessity, and I don't think it should be ignored. I think it should be embraced and brought to the forefront, because it's placed for a reason.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Jeanette. And one of the things I wanted to pick out on there is the fact that these things are happening for us, and we can interact with them in a way that serves us. Or sometimes,
exactly.
Yeah. So I think that is kind of, and from that point, actually, I'd like to kind of move to the poem, The Perfect Universe. If you have got your book, is page 168. So it reads, "The universe so benevolent, perfect as can be, may not serve up what you want, but you'll get just what you need." That pretty much is the point. To expose the delusion that it panders to how you think it should be. Billions of years in the making, pregnant with the treasures of endless wisdom. You presume to give it a piece of your own mind. It's here to present you the opportunity to discover the real you, the essence of your innate brilliance, to break the falsehood of a fixed self, ever resisting and constricting, to embrace the totality of all possibilities, experiencing the full spectrum of your being.
There we are. Embrace it, as I said. Yeah, it's always there for a reason, Frank. What we absorb and everything. That poem is beautiful, and it is resident of us having to acknowledge what we need to embrace at each and every time. I'm a strong believer of all of us embracing our crazy. I always use that phrase, embrace your crazy. Where a lot of people say, oh, move away from negative people, move away out of negative circumstances, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, how can you move away from a negative energy when you need the negative and the positive to create energy in the first place? Like a battery. Battery doesn't just work on positive. It's got the negative elements as well as the element to charge all. You know, so unless we embrace the beauty of what the universe is actually transmitting to us, the negative as well as the positive, then we can't wholly embrace ourselves, because we are part of each. So yeah,
that could take us a whole day to unpack. So
but you know, I'm a person that likes to get straight to the core. I'm a nucleus person, you know. So, and that's probably something to do with the dyslexia and the way my brain is wired. My circuit board is probably not like other people's circuit board. But yeah, it is a whole scenario. It is a whole seminar. It is a half a day's subject just on that.
Yeah, it definitely is.
But yeah.
Avi, thank you very much for sharing that, Jeanette. I appreciate that. Does anybody else have a reflection either on what Jeanette has said or their own reflections when I read the piece?
Yes.
Yeah, go
on. I like the way she put the negative side of it.
Right.
Because without the negative, how can you appreciate the positive? And that itself needs to be awareness of that needs you to be able to for the energy in you to empower you to really appreciate the positive side. And I love it when you said something that we are enough, because everything we are is already inside us. Nothing is new. And that is why knowledge is power. And understanding knowledge also, opens you to another world of wisdom that will make you to appreciate why knowledge and understanding is very important in our day to day. And that is the only way we can appreciate love. Once we've already understand that everything, to appreciate love, you have to see the negative side of love also. Because that is when you're giving. You have to give yourself. You have to die to self, to embrace that negative side and bless them with the positive side of life. Bless. I don't know how to put it, but I understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
So I appreciate what you have just said there. The negative side, because we all run away from the negative side of life, thinking, oh, we don't need it. But that alone gives us volume about being on earth. That is the reason we are created, to appreciate, to bring the two together so that we can appreciate life itself. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Mary. Wow. Okay. Anybody else on this, or any reflections on what we've covered so far from anyone else?
I just really loved the first sentence where you said that the universe, doesn't give you what you want, but what you need. And we've had very long conversations with a very good friend of mine about that, because he keeps coming back saying that, there are all those people out there who are in tune with the universe, and whatever you put out there should come as a positive experience, and it would start to enforce itself. And I always try to reflect back on it and say, but is it what we need? Is it what you need? Is that our path? Maybe our path is different. Maybe we chose something before we ever came here, that we don't know about.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So I think what we're doing here is we're looking beneath the simplicity of this idea: good come, bad go, and the understanding that actually we're looking at the same coin with two sides, effectively, and also the idea that actually, how do we get to be the best judge of what is good or what is not good? I can personally say that the most negative phase of my life, where I was almost bankrupt, effectively, especially from a financial point of view, and also kind of the stress and the thinking about it and everything else I experienced, was for me at the time when I was experiencing it negative. But when I look back at it now, was immensely positive, because I wouldn't be who I am today without it. So it's kind of, and it's that trust is what I'm trying to kind of call people to, is that I know you might not like the experience right now, but find a way to trust the universe and embrace it, that it's here for you and to do something in you, through you, and around you. Because, like, again, in my case, when you look back, eventually you recognize that everything is happening for you, even though it might not feel pleasurable or good or nice or whatever at the time. Claudette, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
There's just a lot running through my mind from this poem.
Okay.
I've just been writing down some words, and the kind of words that's coming up is things like, I think what really, the bit that I liked was the last verse. Break the falsehood of a fixed self. ever resisting and constricting. And I think for me, that was like the words that keep coming up as fresh start, reset, bold and courageous, discipline, intentional, organized. And these are just words that's coming up within me. And I think it's got something to do with the fact that this poem is almost quite liberating. It's like a sense of freedom and getting to know yourself and be free to be who you are. And that you're not, that whatever you've got to offer, it's needed.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. That was wonderful. Tommy, anything from you? You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you very much. I didn't join very early, but from all that I've had, I've got to realize that you have to balance the two, the negative side and the positive side, to really, you know, build yourself. Because without the negative side, like other participants have said, there's no way life can be balanced. For you to really, you know, come up and say you're experienced or that you have, it's just like what you are saying, that when you look back, the negative experience might not be that pleasant, but at least you will have gotten something out of it that really built you up, that really make you whom you are today, that make you to become stronger. And so that's my contribution.
Thank you very much for that. And you remind me of something my mom says to me very often.
Yes.
And it's hard to translate in English, but I'm going to try. And it's like, okay, you haven't suffered and yet you say you're wise. How is that possible? It's like, you know, the saying really is right. For you to learn and be wise, sometimes it just takes you going through those difficult times and then working your way through it, but also trusting that it felt difficult, like you're wondering if you were going to make it, but actually yet here you are. So that's again building the trust in the universe. It's got you. Even when it feels like you might not make it, it has you. You will make it through. Just in there. All right, that's beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to change gears a bit and let's have a look at, let's go for Pursuit of Happiness, which is page 162. So it reads, in the pursuit of happiness lies the belief unexpressed, denying the innate essence from which the knowing springs, that eternal well of abundance that is happiness itself. Pursuit, career embraced, obstruct its natural flow, because it just doesn't feel so in the moment of confusion. I'm going to read it again because it's kind of one of the few ones where you have to kind of read between the lines sometimes. In the pursuit of happiness lies the belief unexpressed, denying the innate essence from which the knowing springs, that eternal well of abundance that is happiness itself. Pursuit, career embraced, to obstruct its natural flow, because it just doesn't feel so in the moment of confusion. So what's popping from that one?
I think, as we've all been saying throughout this, that well, first of all, the universe giving us what we need rather than what we want. Obviously, when we're in the pursuit of happiness or in the pursuit of any goal or anything that we want in life that we believe is going to make us happy, sometimes we have to go through the trauma, the trials and tribulations in order to get it in the first place. So we have to go through, as it says, lies the belief unexpressed. So the belief that we've got and the hope of getting to this goal, we have to go through things that are not expressed, or we have to go through things that we don't understand in order to reach where we want to go. So obviously sometimes we have to go through that negative to reach that positive ending. And it all comes from the belief and the faith that we have in ourselves to actually get to that goal. And we are a cycle, aren't we, Frank? We are all cycles. And if we are following in cycles, then just as nature is a cycle, and right now we are in the winter cycle, and many of us are hibernating, or some of us are sitting on things that we believe we're going to get to, but we have to get through the frost and the barren and the stark and the things in order to bring it to get through to the spring. So that's what's coming from that for me.
That's an interesting reflection on that, actually. But before I comment on that, I'd like to hear what other people think. What's coming up for other people?
I think it's interesting because I've always wondered about the pursuit of happiness that people seem to be so locked on, you know, that everything should be about happiness. And you know, I actually, for me, I'm always looking for peace before happiness, because if I don't reach peace, I'm not happy, you know. And so I'm almost on a pursuit of peace, because if I can obtain that, I'm already in a good place, because that's where I'm sort of calm within myself, right? And so it takes a few readings. It's good that you reread it.
Yeah. I felt it might need it, because I mean, generally speaking, my poetry is meant to be very straightforward, so you don't have to do too much on digging to get what the point is, because I'm not trying to be, but this is one of the few that actually the way I've written it means you need to kind of read between the lines.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. That's a very interesting reflection. Peace, the link between peace and happiness there. Thank you very much for that. Anybody else on this?
I think I just agree with the last person.
Okay.
I just agree, and that's where I am. That's what I'm pursuing, just space.
Okay.
And that's why, in a way, every day takes me there, because I work with young people, and because I've been there in the negative side, I could really understand, and that motivates me, and I get my happiness and, you know, my peace from there, that knowing that everything will be well with those young children in the end, if it could be well with me. So I am more interested in peace, and I think, luckily for me, my name, I didn't tell you, Frank, I don't bear Mary anymore. I'm sorry.
Wait, because your iPad says
exactly.
Yes.
I haven't changed it there. It's Udoka,
and
Udoka stands for peace is great. Right. And that's what I pursue in life now, because that's the ultimate. That's the, you know, that's the benefit of coming alive. When you are alive, that's what you really need.
Right.
To, you know, for me, you know, everybody has what they, you know, need in life. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Claudette, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, you know, in pursuit of, isn't that what a lot of people are chasing after, this happiness? They're chasing after so many different things, thinking it's going to make them, that's where they're going to find their happiness. And then when they get those things, they realize they don't have the happiness.
Exactly.
So they're continually pursuing. Instead of being, they're pursuing all the time.
So Claudette has just hit the nail right.
Exactly. Thank you.
So the point of this piece really, and for me, sorry, I had to mute you because I think there was some background noise coming from your area. So if you need to speak, just on mute, that will be fine. So here's the thing. What the premise of pursuit is, that it's out there, I'm running after it to get it. That's the premise. What if though these things are our nature, but actually it's the way we're looking at them and believing what we believe about them and the stories we say about what it takes to achieve that state, that means that actually we don't experience it as often because it's already here. Because when we're no longer caught in the story about, well, it takes this to be in place for me to be happy or to be at peace. So for example, Udoka, her name is peace, that's saying you already are peace. It's not saying go and look for peace, go and pursue peace. You already are peace. Now, for you to not experience peace is because there's something else that has come that is interfering with your innate nature of peace. So it could be you're worrying about something. It could, do you see what I'm saying? Now, if you drop out of that worry, if someone distracts you and no longer worrying about it, you will experience that peace. Same for this thing about happiness. As Claudia is saying, if you say my happiness is linked to me achieving this thing that's outside of myself, so then I'm pursuing for that thing to happen so that I can experience happiness. But when you actually experience the happiness, you're not experiencing it from the thing, you're experiencing it within. So it's always been within, but there's a story that says you will not allow yourself to experience it until that thing out there has taken place. And this is kind of what this is alluding to, is that in your framing of the word pursuit, you're already putting yourself further away from what you already have. But actually, if you drop out of the mind and all the stories about what's needed for something to happen, you can experience those things now. And a good experiment is if you focus and visualize on something that you consider peaceful, straight away you'll start feeling peaceful. You start experiencing that within yourself. Well, that didn't come from that thing because that thing doesn't exist. You visualized it. Therefore, the experience exists from within you and it's coming from within you. Therefore, if we drop away from the stories and we drop away from everything, we begin to recognize more our true nature, which is already those things that we seek. And the reason we seek them is because we are them already.
We are them already. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that kind of is where that piece was heading to. I'm going to bear with me. Right. Okay. Sorry for me. So did you want to say anything to that? Because you'd have to unmute yourself. Sorry.
I quite agree with everyone. Yeah,
Right.
that pursuit of peace or happiness, you need to be, to find peace with yourself. It's very important.
Yeah. And I love what you say there. It's with yourself. It's in yourself. Thank you very much for that. Right. Okay. So I'm going to go Land of Travel, page 172. Because I think this is another part of what we're just talking about. So page 172, Land of Travel. You've traveled near, you've traveled far. You've traveled here, you've traveled there. You've pretty much traveled everywhere. You still haven't found what you're looking for. The utopia at the end of that galactic rainbow. In anticipation of the great climax, reserved for the place called there. Perchance you may have missed the land of travel itself. Each interaction a journey, each new culture a revelation. Exploring differences as sameness, experiencing the joy of serendipity as the universe surprises you in ways only it can do. Every day created anew to experience. When next asked where you need to get to, you can answer, I don't very much care. I'm in the greatest destination of all. Any thoughts?
Well, that pretty much sums it up, everything you've said and written down. I mean, I come from a background where I did actual travel a lot, and I loved it, and it sort of drove me forward so that I almost lived for the moment of travel. And then I had to stop it because my physiology no longer could sustain it. and I was completely lost, you know, because I didn't have that outlet, that's something to look forward to travel somewhere. And in the end, you know, the experience of travel is exactly that, is your self-transformation. It's in you, you know, in what I can find within myself. And it's not limited to where I'm physically at, you know. And that took me a long time to find that place, and to be able to travel from where I am. And it infused a lot of the development and the writing and the thinking. And the more I do that, the more I actually travel and find myself, you know.
Wow.
That's true. We are forever traveling within ourselves.
Yeah.
Each and every day. But in life and work, we're so busy within that stratosphere of next week I have to this and traveling to this. It's not necessarily has to be a traveling to another country and traveling to this, and in the pursuit of reaching there, we can be traveling within ourselves, learning about ourselves, growing within ourselves. As I said before, we are cycles, and if we put that much energy into traveling within our own minds and experiencing who we really are and the purpose of our lives as human beings, to connect with other human beings and give of ourselves and give of our love to one another, then the whole world would be a better place. It's like people said, the church is just a building, you know, and we are the church. The people is the world, the people is the universe. You know, we are the energy and the connections with one another, and we are the love of the beauty of the world itself. Yes. We travel within ourselves and reach the optimum peak of the best self, then we will be the most beautiful of all things when we live in the now, instead of chasing the so-called beauty of a destination that is not really there, because we are the beautifulest destination there is. The human being, the human form, the human love, the human give, the human purpose.
Man, I love that.
Some beautiful reflection.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'd like to come back to Maria and what she said there, because that I couldn't have put it more succinctly, to have a personal story that actually just encompasses that is just so precious. Thank you for sharing that. And Jeanette, thanks a lot for how you kind of showed really that. And here's an interesting point, and I'll bring everybody else in just a minute, but I just want to lose this point. You can't actually defer. And sometimes the pursuit of the external travel sometimes is to get away from that internal travel. It's to avoid having to actually, it's easier to go out there and focus on out there than actually look at what's in there. It just feels so scary. It just feels so scary to do that. But that's where the liberation is. That's where the development is. That's where the growth is. Because when we understand that life energy and life force comes from the inside out, not outside in, and to realize actually that it's when we do that inner work that creates the energy that creates the opportunity for the outer manifestation. And that's why we're on manifestation here as the final phase. Yes, Udoka, anything from you on this?
No, she said it all. I'm trying to
take it on.
What Maria and Janet said, I'm just trying to enjoy it.
That's beautiful. Claudette, anything from you?
This parts of this poem reminded me of the previous one, Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
You know, and it's about searching outside when really the search should be inside.
Yeah. And I'd like to call us to something else, actually. The last three lines say, when next asked where you need to get to, you can answer, I don't very much care. I mean, the greatest destination of all. That last line is a call to begin to appreciate where you are now.
Absolutely.
And to have that gratitude for where you are now, without a story that says, if only something else happened, then this moment would be any better than it is. that kind of is the call. And it's something I'm kind of leaning into more and more now, is that idea that in this moment, I'm going to enjoy it without entertaining a story that says, oh, this moment will be even better if something else happened. This is the moment as it is, and I choose to celebrate it as it is. And if I were to die after this moment, I'm not going to bemoan anything else, because in this moment, I choose to celebrate everything that's going on. And I think, going to what someone was, I think it was Claudette saying about being liberating, I think that can be very liberating. And the irony of it, of course, is that actually it creates more opportunities to experience even more and more of life. Right. I'm going to go to, I am after no trying, because I think of everything we've covered so far, I think that has something that could give us another angle of reflection, I think.
I'm sorry, Frank, but I have to leave now because I've got to do my client's lunch. But
yeah,
it's been fantastic to join you, and meet the rest of you all. I do apologize. I must leave, but I'm at work. Frank knows I've been trying to connect with him for forever on then, since we're on the same publishing group, but still. Thank you so much. Stay blessed.
Thank you.
And continue to love yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. What a great gift that. Right. Okay. So, no trying, page 178. Out in the yard I was. At rest in place I saw it. A tree with flowers in bloom. Nothing else it could do. It is what the season determined. In it I saw no trying. Onto his branches there flew a bird adorned in white and blue, its flight as graceful as can be, perched at rest with no sign of stress, for it was what it knew to do. From it I saw no trying. And so for a treat it stretched, picking from the abundant bloom to meet its need for the moment. After it had its fill, it flew. For there will be a next meal. In that moment, there will be no trying. As nature knows to be what the universe sets in motion, for design decides what being reflects, to embrace the wise unfolding, so there is no place for trying, just the glorious emergence of being.
I love the last verse, you know, it's just gorgeous. I mean, I observe nature a lot because I photograph, and I've done so for years. And the effortless, I always admire the effortless in nature. And you know, that's what I'm looking for, you know, how to actually realize that in our lives, so that we don't have to push things, you know, they can just happen. And it was just yesterday when I sat down and I thought, you know, it's like someone told me, like whispered in my ear, that if you just be the light, that's it, that's all that's needed. You know, so whenever I feel like I need to push for something or do something, rather just rely on my own nature. You know, what comes naturally to me, rather than trying to force it.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy, but I find that when I do that, it's a lot easier to live with myself and live with others around me.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Udoka, were you going to say something on that?
No, I'm just enjoying the present. I think I've lacked that for many years, you know, trying to pursue what is, you know, I'm not regretting it because it's part of knowledge of living, you know, but trying to pursue what is not really needed at that moment, you know. So I'm trying to enjoy the present now, and everything you guys are it's just a reminder that the present is more important because that's what belongs to you, nothing else. So I'm just grateful for sitting here this afternoon, just a reminder that you are enough wherever you are just enough for that moment, and just celebrate it, as you said. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Claudette?
Yeah, I think I was just thinking, yeah, because we tend to always want to be doing something, striving for something, and I think it's about getting away from that, and just being, and just sometimes don't feel guilty if you're not striving and fighting to do something. Always want to control or make something happen, and I think that's when we sort of can lose our way, because we tend to pursue that, get caught up with that, and then we don't have the enjoyment in our life like that we perhaps could on a day-to-day basis.
I love what you said there about not feeling guilty, because because of the conditioning around us, it's very difficult not to be feeling guilty when you think, well, aren't I meant to be working 9 to 5, and aren't I meant to be putting 8 hours of effort? And even when you're not even at the job, you're thinking, well, you should fill the time with activity somehow. And yeah, it takes just being aware that that's what's happening, and then relaxing back into who you are. And of course, we're at no point saying that you never do anything, but there's a knowing of a doing that comes from a place of peace than a place of hurriedness and busyness. And I think that we know the difference between those when we're, and that's why, to me, I'm a big fan of simplifying life to a point where it's easier to hear those moments and pick those moments up, rather than you're running from pillar to post. No time to rest and really listen to your own self and where you are and what's happening in there for you. For me, anything from you?
Yeah, I really enjoy the quote. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, like all I've learned is that in life, one should not be desperate.
Yeah.
Be pushful. You should not encourage procrastination. Should be hardworking. But when it comes to being desperate, at the end of the day, it might bring sorrow. So I think as much as you are pushful, you're ambitious, you don't procrastinate, you do what you're supposed to do, then let's leave everything to God to take preeminence. So I'm going to life not to be desperate. When you are desperate, it tends to bring what you did not bargain for. That's what
Yeah, thanks for that, Funny. And it's an interesting thing about the word desperate, actually. I like that was raised. When you think about desperation takes us back to this thing about the perfect universe. So the lack of trust that the universe has you causes you to be desperate, because there's a sense of fear that you won't have, that you're not enough, and that you won't have enough. And so it's that place of trust, and also the breaking of the illusion that somehow we are the ones who've been responsible for all these things all this while. Because really, if we objectively look back over our lives, there are times when we've needed something to happen that we had no control of, and it happened, and we're here today. And it's kind of recognizing that actually the universe that has us here actually knows how to look after us, and which again takes us beautifully to this particular piece, because this actually was a story. It's not just a poem. I literally went running, or was I doing weights? I can't remember which. And then I was resting and I was sitting down and there was a tree and there was a bird. So this actually happened. And it just got me reflecting and thinking, isn't that interesting? I bet that bird is not desperate. I bet that bird is not, you know, worrying about tomorrow. That bird is like just living and looking well, and finds a tree and looks to see. If it doesn't find that tree, he'll go and look for another tree and go. But I think we as human beings, our human experience, because the very part of our brain that allows us to create, the very part of our brain that allows us to play with scenarios, the very part of our brain that allows us to extrapolate into the future, and that's how come we've managed to design systems that have developed and sustained in civilization. But it's the very thing that can work against us when we don't learn and become aware that, yeah, we're trying to control things we don't control. We don't have control over. If you just rest into the trust of the universe, no trying doesn't mean no doing. It just means that you're trusting, and therefore your doing comes from a place of trust. When you receive that inclination, that inspiration to go and do one thing, just focus on that one thing and do it, and do it peacefully in flow, which is the next piece we'll look at before we finish. Anybody else on that one before we Right, I'm going to finish with 182. So it's probably the shortest piece in the book, potentially. I think it probably is, actually. So it's page 182, flow is. Flow is bliss, as time ceases to exist, in the moment when awareness is transfixed on what the soul seeks. I'll read it again. Flow is bliss, as time ceases to exist, in the moment when awareness is transfixed on what the soul seeks.
It's a short poem, but it says a lot, and I love that because it's the ultimate state of actually writing poetry to me, is starting from a blank page and not looking at anything about the time frame or what time it is during the day or anything like that, and just writing what comes out. And what comes out surprises me very often. You know, I look back and I wonder what I've written, and in a few days' time it makes sense. Because some things that I write about are things that my soul is already experiencing, it's already realized it, and it's trying to tell me that this is happening. And sometimes those events sort of just, they appear out of nowhere. And I love those moments. I think that's the best place to be, you know, for creativity.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And I'll say more about that later, but I want to hear what everybody else has to say about this. Thank you.
This poem reminds me of when I'm doing my flower, because I do flowers.
Okay.
And when I just stand at the table and I stand with a whole load of flowers and a load of resources, and I have no idea, I'd use no pictures, I just stand there. And once I stand there, I'm there for hours. I'm shocked at what time I leave there. And when I'm in the flow, I don't feel hungry. I don't think of nothing else enters my mind except what I'm actually doing with my hands at that time. And I'm not sitting there thinking of what, I'm not even conscious of saying, oh, well, what I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. My mind is just flowing. It's just happening. So when I see what I create at the end, what comes out at the end, I'm shocked sometimes, thinking, where did those ideas come from?
Yeah.
Look at the time. So when I was reading that's the state I'm in when I'm doing my flowers.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing that. Udoka, anything from you?
Oh. I just pray we can, we can live in that moment. As she's just said, when she's enjoying something, she just lives in that moment and she's not distracted of anything. The concentration is there for her to enjoy what she's doing, for her to be at peace with what she's doing. So I'm just praying we can all reach that moment of awareness and knowing what the soul really is seeking. And it's hard sometimes to really be that quiet, to appreciate, just to allow that little voice to let you know, stay there. Let me relate with you at this moment. Let me enjoy you, enjoy me. I'm praying I can do this. This is deep. This is not nice. You've said this. It's nice, but it's like a challenge now of me.
Where the higher the less is
that moment to come to pass in my life.
Well, we need to have a conversation about that.
Yes, seriously, you've just hit. It's like a two-edged sword, able to pierce into the marrows. To speak to you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Right, for me, what have you got to say on this one?
The whole thing sounds interesting.
You've gone on mute for me. I don't know what's happened there. Yeah, I can hear you. You're gone. Oh, you've gone on mute. I'm not sure what's going on with her system there. Okay, in the interest of time, because we're almost out of time, I'll quickly round up on this one. So there's two things that's come out of this, which I just think is very interesting. Sorry about that for me. I'm not sure what happened. You kept going on mute. But in the interest of time, I'll kind of try and bring this to a close. So one thing that Maria said that was interesting is the idea of when you allow your soul to guide you in that space of creativity, you are capable of channeling stuff that your consciousness is not even aware of. And which is why when you then come back and see what happens, you go, wow, okay, where did that come from? And lots of pieces I've written, I come back and think, did I write that? Are you sure I wrote that? Because, yeah, do you see what I'm saying? So, and this is the thing. So again, we come to the premise of this book and the way it was written is that we start out thinking we are in control of stuff and we chose our dreams and so on and so forth. What I want people to leave with is recognizing that you didn't. Your dreams chose you. The universe is calling you into an experience. You are not the one directing the universe. The universe is calling you into an experience, a co-creative experience nonetheless, but it is the driver of that. It is the one that has brought you into the dance. It has brought you into the context. And so flow is one of the states in which you align your soul with what the universe already wants to do. And then you become a channel of creating and putting something into the world that creates inspiration, that inspires, enriches, and helps and guides and does all these kinds of things. And that's what we're here for, to be those channels. And bliss, flow is just one of those, it's the state in which we are aligned, basically. And the more we trust, the more this happens. The more we try and control and make it happen, the less it happens, because it's not about your conscious mind. So it's about the dropping away rather than adding. You are subtracting the stories. You're subtracting the minds wanting to be in control of the process. And you're trusting, being able to allow to give yourself to something that you cannot determine what the outcome is going to be. Therefore, the only way to enter that space is trust. That I'll give myself to the universe in this moment to inspire and do what it wants to do through me, and whatever it does will be okay. And what then happens is that it transcends what we could do consciously, and also sometimes transcends time. So yesterday I had a meeting with someone, and the night before I was inspired to finish off some poems that it turned out we needed for the second day. One for myself, one for the other person. because I was disappointed because I had an expectation that the person was delivering news that says, actually, it's not going to happen that way. But I'd just written a piece the night before that has that particular topic. That expectation and disappointment are like Siamese twins. Without one, you can't get the other. And there I was faced with realizing that I'm feeling disappointed now because I set this expectation, and now that expectation I've been told won't be the case, and that's why I'm experiencing it. And it helped me to make peace with that disappointment, because I knew that it was an emotion going to pass. And in context, things will return to how they were.
Yes.
So thank you very much, everyone. You've made this a beautiful final Dream live event, and I couldn't have wished for better contributions and people to share this moment with. Thank you so very much. And next month, it will be Poetricity that will be leading the event, and we will be looking at topics such as, what is your true identity? Who are you really? Are you your mind? Are you your body? Those kind of things. So those are the kind of pieces we'll be exploring next month. So hopefully if you can make it, please do join us.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.